This is Trend Following Radio, where great thinking comes alive. Nobel Prize winners, legendary traders, best-selling authors, and the pros that know what drive us irrational human beings. I am your host, Michael Covel. Not filtered, raw, honest. That's my passion. I'm being a little sarcastic when I use that Turtles song, and I'm talking Turtles, the pop group from the 60s, song called Outside Chance. But I think for most people that want the easy riches, and most people that want the lottery type, I have to have it right now, fantasy, quick money, Outside Chance probably best describes your chances of getting there, because that's not the way the world works. But, you know, even more fun, I don't know if that's a fun thought. I guess I could take it as a fun thought. Maybe it's not fun for you. I don't know. But that Turtles song has some relevance, I guess, to my second book. Not necessarily the song, but the band. And, you know, historically, it's always been said that the Turtles were named the Turtles. Now I'm speaking of the trading tribe group of turtles trained by Richard Dennis. And it's always been, and that's the subject of my second book, The Complete Turtle Trader. But it's always been said that the turtles themselves, this group of students that were trained by Richard Dennis to be very successful traders, it's always been said that they were named that way because Dennis had been at a turtle breeding farm in Singapore, and that he saw this big vat of turtles. They were swimming around, and that's where they grew turtles. And he said to himself, "Well, I want to grow traders like they're growing turtles here in Singapore." I never really had any reason to doubt that story. That's the story that's been out there. But, you know, it's kind of funny. After I did my book, I caught some flack from some folks, and one of the turtles that I caught a little flack from was a turtle named Lucy. And there had been some things in my original text that I guess she did not like, and some comments from other turtles. But she actually went in to describe from her perspective that she thought that the turtles were actually named after the band, the Turtles, because that was one of Richard Dennis's favorite bands. So, I don't know which one to believe. I don't know. You never know what popular myth is going to be true. But Lucy did know. She met Rich Dennis back before anybody. So she actually knew Dennis before any of the other turtles came on the scene. So, anyways, for what it's worth, I thought it was fun. But I think the Outside Chance lyric really describes, unfortunately, the way a lot of investors and traders have set themselves up. They have an outside chance of doing well. And because they don't really approach the world in the right way. So, what's my point? Well, an interesting clip I saw the other day that someone sent me. And it's about, I believe it's pronounced Ixon Gracie. And of the Gracie family from Brazil, jiu-jitsu, UFC fighting champions, just all around badasses. And not because they're all 6'3" and 225 pounds and they can kick your butt. No, because they have a certain philosophy and strategy of fighting that's based on leverage. It's based on putting yourself in the right position, going with the flow. Anyways, before I say too much, let me play this. It's about a minute-long clip that I want you to hear from this documentary called Choke. So hold on. Here you go.
The most interesting aspect of jiu-jitsu is of course, the techniques are great, but the sensibility of opponent, the sense of touch, the weight, the momentum, the transition from one movement to another, that's the amazing thing about it. And you must allow yourself to go as like an automatic pilot. you don't know exactly where you're going until the movement happens, because you cannot anticipate what's going to happen. You must allow yourself to be in a 0 point, in a neutral point, and be relaxed and connected with the variations. So you pretty much flow with the goal. And this is a point beyond the knowledge. It's years of playing around give you this kind of sensibility.
He's saying a lot there. It's very similar to what you might hear on that classic Bruce Lee water clip where he talks about be like water, flow. And Gracie's saying the same thing. He's saying your strategy has to be not anticipation, it's reaction, putting yourself in the right position. So if you were to watch Gracie fight, it's about adapting to what his opponent gives him. And the size of the opponent is not necessarily a huge issue, because I think Gracie, this particular Gracie, I think was only 5'10", 6 foot, maybe 170 pounds, but he could kick the tail out of much larger opponents. And it's all about getting leverage on your opponent, being in the right position, adapting to. And that's what he's saying. And if you think about the market is this kind of undulating up and down process. And when I say the market, we can be talking about the corn market, the stock market, oil market. It doesn't make a difference. But these markets are always up and down. It's as Bill Dunn classically said, they are the bucking bronco. You can just ride them. And so, it's amazing. I guess what I'm always looking for is the through line. What's the through line outside of the trend following world that connects with the trend following world? So yes, I see this Gracie video, this documentary called Choke, and he's talking about being in the moment of now, adapting to your opponent. Bill Dunn's talking about riding the bucking bronco. And I guess it's very difficult to accept that. We want to think, and I've mentioned this before, there was a great Zen Habits article that I commented on recently, the idea that most people want to find control. They have to have control of their environment. At least they think they have to have control, or they think they can control their environment, where the reality is, we're all on this great wave that we can, we can make decisions. And I'm going to talk about that in a second with another interesting video clip from Malcolm Gladwell. Yes, we can make decisions. And yes, there are good ways to make decisions. But once you make the decision, you can sit back, you can ride, you can have the next decision-making process in place, ready to go. I mean, if you think about, I don't want to even begin to, I'm sure there's some listeners out there that probably know jiu-jitsu and maybe Brazilian, and I don't. I freely admit that. But I watch and I listen, and you can learn a lot just by listening to this particular Gracie in just a few minutes. You start to understand how he thinks. Now, and I also relate to it in a kind of a funny way. Back in the day, I grew up with 3 guys that were wrestlers. At least one of them was a state champion wrestler. And as a young guy, I got my butt kicked. But you learned leverage. And so this was probably, I don't know, the ages of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 10 or 11, 12, probably in there. And you're just always messing around and you're learning leverage, because these guys would just, if you've ever been around wrestlers, the thing is you're on the ground immediately and you're being twisted into a pretzel, and you're trying to find leverage, and you're trying to figure out a way to break certain holds and get out and get the advantage, etc. And I think back on it, and as I watch this Gracie piece, it makes me realize my simple little story taken to exponential degrees of practice and expertise. But I learned, even in high school, whether it was, I think when they took every either junior and senior high school, they took everybody and introduced you to wrestling, and you had to have a kind of a wrestle off. And I remember I came in second. But it was only because I understood that, you can let people tire themselves out. You can put yourself in a leverage advantage. You can adapt to what they're doing. And if you listen to Gracie, and like I said, this is, it makes my experience with being on the ground and wrestling, obviously not even jiu-jitsu, it makes it pale in comparison. But when you hear him talk, you immediately are like, oh, yeah, I know exactly what he's saying. Now, I'm not going to be able to pull it off any Brazilian jiu-jitsu anytime by myself here, but I get it. I get what he's talking about, where the adaption. And I think, once again, if you bring it back to markets, just adapt. And you can't force it. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, maybe the Israelis will, bomb Iran. Maybe the Iranians will bomb Israel. Maybe one of our current political leaders will do something exceedingly dumb or smart. Who knows? And maybe the markets will move. Maybe the markets won't move. But either way, you have to have a strategy. And I think when you think about the wrestling and you think about the jiu-jitsu, tiring yourself out is a big issue. You don't want to tire yourself out. You don't want to wake up and always be in a constant state of fear or tired or waiting for something. It gets back to what Gracie says in that quick video clip. He's talking about the moment of now, and that's all you have. So if you can find yourself to put yourself in a position of an adaptive mentality where you feel like I can adapt to what comes my way, and you cannot get preoccupied with the future, and you can allow yourself to take what the market gives you. Might give you a lot, might take away a lot. Maybe it only gives you a small stop, maybe a small exit. Maybe you exit with a small loss. Maybe that's all the market gives you today. That's it. You can't do anything about it. I mean, to me, it's amazing because I continually receive questions in people. They want to talk about finding the trend, and I always say, well, you can't find the trend till it's over. You can have an entry technique, you can have an exit technique, but finding the trend, trend is point A, point B, and you measure it once it's over. So I don't know how you're supposed to measure it, the trend, unless you're using some kind of funky predictive analysis, which I think is just a waste of time. The reactive technical analysis, the trend following variety makes a lot more sense. But anyways, I think this moment of now, if I was to sum up where Gracie is going, and find the documentary and find the clip and just watch him. It is kind of interesting because it's just another perspective of trend following, but in a real world application that has nothing to do with trend following trading. And I love that stuff. I love finding something like that in this case it was forwarded to me, so I didn't exactly find it myself. But so hey, look, if you're out there and you see something that'd be really interesting to make for a good podcast example, forward it along to me. I mean, I love to take a look at that kind of stuff. So, the second part of this segment that I wanted to go into is something that I saw from Malcolm Gladwell, the author of Blink, The Tipping Point, and because we were just talking about this kind of, Gracie says, the 0 point, the moment of now, and adaption. Well, that's great philosophically, but once you move beyond philosophically, you have to move into the next step, which is, how do I execute this mentality? What are the rules for executing this kind of moment of now? What do I do? And let me play this clip from Gladwell first.
I have a long section in the book about ER doctors diagnosing chest pain. And chest pain is a profoundly difficult thing to diagnose. And the question is, how do you make them better decision makers in the moment? And the answer is, you make them better decision makers by taking information away from them. If you limit ER doctors to 4 simple things about a patient coming in with chest pain, their EKG, their blood pressure, whether there's fluid in their lungs, whether their pain is stable or unstable, and take everything else off the table, history of heart disease, cholesterol, were you up all night doing cocaine? Are you overweight? Are you young? Are you old? Are you male? Are you female? Are you black? Are you white? Take all that stuff. Take it away. Force them only to consider those 4 factors. You can make them into profoundly, not marginally, profoundly better diagnosticians of chest pain. And that's a beautiful example of how our ability to rapidly reach a sophisticated conclusion can be derailed by overloading people with information.
I just love it, right? The overloading of information. Take the the data that a doctor takes in to analyze heart issues and reduce it to 4 data points, and his ability to become a fantastic doctor increases exponentially. That's just awesome, right? It's the same in trading. It's the same in making money. How many data points do you have out there right now if you say to yourself, just tomorrow, or I guess we could already be tomorrow there by the time we're recording this, but tomorrow you're going to trade the Nikkei. How many data points does the news fundamental guild out there want you to think exist for you to analyze? I mean, what is it? Thousands? Millions? How many different data points can you digest by the time you want to make a trade in the Nikkei tomorrow? How many data points? I mean, so many that your head would spin. You'd probably start to get shakes. You'd be sweating profusely, probably vomiting, especially if you have your money on the line. All these data points, I mean, it's clearly impossible to digest. And the thing is they make you feel like the system out there, the machine, makes you feel like you do have to digest these data points because you'll read stories about very successful traders that have made gazillions of dollars, like Ray Dalio, who is taking in apparently all types of fundamental data in a systematic way to make his decisions on his $100 billion plus fund. Well, that's Ray Dalio. And none of us are going to ever really know exactly what he does. And frankly, I don't care. Not that I don't care because I'm saying something derogatory about him. I'm not. I think it's great. I love success. So I wish him the best, and I think it's fantastic. He's a fantastic success marker. But I don't care, meaning I can't worry about it or I can't concern myself with it. I can only do what's been dealt to me. What can I use that's been dealt to my life? And once again, if you're going to trade the Nikkei tomorrow, how are you going to trade the Nikkei tomorrow with all those millions and millions of data points? How are you going to decide to take an action to buy or sell, or how much? You have to reduce it to something. And that is the brilliance of Gladwell's insight. He is saying less is more. He is saying reduce it to one thing. And I'm not trying to be cryptic here. I mean, obviously, I have 4 books out there. And hey, look, support the cause here. I implore you, if you've already read one of my books, buy one for a friend. Come on, let's educate ourselves so we can have a better conversation. And I think I need to do some call-in shows here soon too, where I get other people calling in. But once again, continuing, you want to reduce it to a variable that you can understand. And what I mean by that is if the Nikkei is trading at 9,000 tomorrow, that's a number you can understand. You can reduce it to one thing. You don't have to know what the papers are saying. You don't have to know what the economists are saying. You don't have to know what the analysis is from the untold number of banks and brokers out there about the Nikkei. All you have to know is, what is it trading at right now? Remember the Gracie clip in the beginning of this segment. The right now, the moment of now. The moment of now, what's it trading at right now? And what can we reduce our variables to? The things we follow to something that's manageable. And in Gladwell's clip, he says 4 variables for the doctor, for the heart doctor. Well, in trading, it's even better. You can reduce it to 1. Price. The price. What's the price of the Nikkei in our example? It's at 9,000. There's your price. You have to make a decision right now based on that. Now, of course, if you need to measure the volatility, that's also going to be a price measurement. Might need to know what the price is yesterday, which will affect your decision-making on what the price is today. But it's very simple. Now, it's not simple to execute. I mean, that guy Gracie, he makes it sound like it's easy being a 6 foot, 175-pound guy that can beat the living crap out of every other male on the planet. He makes it sound like that's easy. But once you put yourself into the mind frame of where he starts, what's his philosophical foundation? What's Gladwell's philosophical foundation? What's Bill Dunn's philosophical foundation? You can't worry about how much money you have or how much money you're going to make. You can't worry about any of that, or even your system, the exact rules of a system, until the 6 inches between your ears are solved. So I have to keep reiterating. You look at the Gracie clip, the moment of now, adapting. Look at the Gladwell clip. Reduce the variables in your decision-making down. His example, the heart doctors, 4 variables. Mine, trading, reduce it to price, 1 variable. Got one thing you got to look at. And you sit back and, you go to the cocktail party, or you're at the bar or at the restaurant, or a group of friends, and they're all yakking away about, oh, yeah, you hear about this, you hear about that. And, their broker called them, or they saw something in the news, or this, or, Captain Kirk was talking about Priceline or something, Mark Zuckerberg, did something and that affected Facebook's price and yada, yada, yada. Okay. Next. You're just kind of like, I don't care. It's not relevant. I'm only in this game to make money. I'm not in this game to chat with folks about it. I'm not in this game to do anything other than try and profit. And if you're in the game for some other reason than profit, well, don't be surprised if you don't get something entirely different than profit. Profit's the goal. That's what I'm teaching my students about. How to use trend following techniques to extract money from the market. And hopefully that will give you some extra freedom in your life. That's it. That's the worthy goal. I have some good interviews coming up this week. I hate to use names these days because, especially after my most recent canceled trip to China, I hate to pre-announce things now. I'm a little gun shy about pre-announcing things, but I continually get really, really bright folks to come on and talk about their thinking, and that's just great. And so if you ever have any questions or you have any ideas about other guests, drop me a line. I'd love to hear from you. And like I said, I think I need to do some call-in stuff. So, you're always welcome to leave a voicemail message even on my my phone, or send me an attached audio clip to my email, and I can blend it into a podcast. I mean, I'd love to hear from you. Seriously, I can't interview everybody, but I would love to hear from you. And I think if I get enough good questions, I can always blend them into a part of the podcast and answer them and add extra color. I see a time when those awake will understand how to make money in up, down, and surprise markets. Whether new trader or experienced, college student or financial advisor, protecting against a crash or just trying to make a lot of money, trend following offers everyone an answer in uncertain times. To get started immediately, send me an email, michael@covel.com. I will send you the right trend following steps to take along with my free video. But if you want to buy and hold, trust the government and trust Wall Street, this is absolutely not for you.